What's good, people? It's about that time to randomly relate reverse rant to no hate. So, let me just start this video off by announcing Kevin McBride versus Holyfield, Evander Holyfield at the next Triller event, which will have Timo Lopez involved and a host of other fighters. Listen, we know that Holyfield is not coming back to try to resume his career long term. He wanted to just come back and have one fight with Mike Tyson. That fight didn't happen, so now he's fighting Kevin McBride, and hopefully afterwards that him and Mike Tyson can finally get in there for the third time. Um, it's the type of fight. Pause. So it's a it's the type of thing where what we see with Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. Um, Hopefully it's not that where they go and just hold back and just try to make a show so much, simply because this is going to be on the card with some serious fighters, and then this type of thing can be overshadowed. um I didn't think, as far as what Mike Tyson was thinking with legends only type thing, I didn't see that as being really effective, because you got to get people that actually want to do this. And we can put all the like fantasy matchups in our heads that we want, but are these fights actually going to actually happen? Mike was talking about, you know, certain, maybe it might be a basketball player versus a football player. Maybe somebody is beefing back and forth on social media from two different genres that want to get in there and mix it up, type of thing. I get the idea, but that's if it works out that way. And people who are not used to getting punched in their face and their ribs and have to go in here and train all of a sudden and get in there and fight. Um, it's a little, it's different from just talking and mashing buttons on social media. But, Holyfield and McBride are going to do it. Now, let me get into something that was said. And it's so funny how it's not even, it's just weird how grown adults can be so naive, so childish, so immature. You know, I was listening to a video, and people are still talking about glovegate. They're still making complaints about glovegate. They're still talking about Deontay Wilder was cheated. You know, now let me just say this. Someone made a comment and said to me, how come I don't never really talk about Deontay Wilder? Like, what's next for Deontay Wilder? And I responded to that person and said, did you actually just ask me that question? And the person was like, yo, you got great insight and boxing knowledge and understanding of what's going on. I check out your material, but it's like you never talk about Deontay Wilder fighting against guys like Joseph Parker, for instance. Dillian White. That's what he said. I said, okay. So let me ask you a question. How can I possibly talk about what's next for Deontay Wilder when Deontay Wilder is not even talking about what's next for Deontay Wilder? And if you had been watching my videos, you hear me making mentions of there's still more work, a lot more work for Deontay Wilder to be done if he's actually interested in actually doing it. I hear Deontay Wilder fans saying things like Deontay don't even have to fight again if he don't want to. When people say they don't even think Deontay wants to fight, that they think he want to retire. Oh, he's done everything. He's beaten everybody. And it's like, who? What do you mean? These people are delusional. So there's no reason to even entertain a conversation with them. Now, to ask me such a stupid question shows you're not even a casual. This is a new kind of stupid right here. If Deontay Wilder opens his mouth and says, I want Andy Ruiz, okay? If I can't get Ruiz, I want Dillian White. But he say these things knowing knowing they already have up-and-coming fights. Then what happens later after the fights happen? Okay, what has Deontay Wilder done to show he want to fight with Dillian Whyte? What has he said? So how can I can sit here and say I would like to see him fight this guy, and this guy, but at the same time, for me to say what's next for Deontay Wilder, I can't tell you what's next for any fighter. The only thing I can go by is what they say, okay, and what they do. And what has Deontay Wilder said? Then the guy brings up Blue Blood. And he says how Blue Blood supports Deontay Wilder. I said, well, you know, that's easy for Blue Blood and anybody else because they're Deontay Wilder fans. I'm no fan of anyone. Then the guy says, listening to my videos, he can tell that I like Dillian Whyte's my favorite fighter. And I said, first off, I don't have a favorite fighter. And you couldn't be more wrong. I respect Dillian Whyte's abilities in the ring. But at the same time, Anthony Joshua is the heavyweight that I push for. That's the guy who I want to see, you know, clean up the division and do his thing and be, you know, become undisputed and all that. And I said, see, what happened is you probably saw multiple videos. Now that goes of me speaking about Dillian Whyte. Now that goes to show you how people don't pay attention and how they don't keep up. Think about this, okay? I push for AJ. I rarely talk about AJ. Why? There's nothing to talk about. AJ speaks when it's time to fight. AJ speaks when when he know that he's going to make moves. For me to just make a video repeating something AJ said, because what I mean is, with AJ's situation, it's always you know who's next for AJ, or you don't, right? Well, you know, you pretty much know. He had a situation with Jarrell Miller. He had a situation where, you know, starting with Dillian Whyte when he was supposed to fight AJ after he beat Chisora, and he turned that fight down, and then AJ had to fight somebody else, and then basically when we had the Jarrell Miller situation where he got popped dirty, and then they had to replace him with Andy Ruiz. So other than that, you always, you know, you knew, like, you just had the announcement of who AJ is going to fight, and AJ is not a trash talker. Now, the most I can talk about is what's going on with active fighters that's when something's coming up. That's what I speak about. Dylan talks a lot. He gives you something to talk about other than, you know, just the fight itself. Deontay Wilder, it was a lot of speculation. And when he does say things, he says so many things, and for some reason, Deontay can say 10 things. His fans are the ones who misconstrue what he say or try to, you know, add things to make him look better, and it's like we're basically just going by what's said. AJ's not a trash talker. AJ doesn't just make video after video after video saying things about other fighters, and he doesn't do it. And if you take glovegate out the picture, nobody would have been talking about Deontay Wilder as much as they did. And the fact that here it is April, okay? Look, tonight we got Liam Smith versus Andre. Okay? They're still talking about glovegate. People are still doing these videos about glovegate. They're still doing these little joint videos, and they're still who gives a shit about glovegate? Here's the thing. It goes to show you his fans haven't moved forward, and neither has he. Blue Blood. Let me tell you something. Okay, I don't know Blue Blood personally. I don't care to know him. I don't need to know him. Okay, I don't know the brother. I just know what he talks about is delusional as fuck, and pretty much it's like, why even entertain this whole stupid glovegate nonsense? There's nothing to gain. You're not going to change anyone's mind. Basically, you just have people that's been saying things about each other. Now they share a platform where they can all talk and pretty much try to come to what kind of understanding. What's the goal there? People are going to believe what they want to believe. Blue Blood has said something that you don't have to be highly intelligent to understand, that the guy's a hypocrite. He said in the video, he said he expects Tyson Fury. Listen to what he said about Tyson Fury. Okay? First off, let me start. He said what he said about AJ. He said AJ has stamina issues and AJ's very predictable. This is what Blue Blood said about AJ. So basically, AJ doesn't do shit right. AJ is just a limited fighter that just happens to be two-time unified champion of the world. But he doesn't do anything right, pretty much. According to Blue Blood, that he has stamina issues, and he's very predictable. Okay. He also said, now listen to this. Tyson Fury is 6'9". AJ is a little bit shorter than Wilder at 6'6". Tyson Fury has long arms. He's a big guy. He basically said he is a slick boxer. He never has stamina issues, and he's crafty, basically. Okay, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, he's a very slick boxer, has no stamina issues, and can fight. And he expects Tyson Fury to beat Anthony Joshua. Now, here's the crazy part. AJ, who was much better, well-rounded, all-around skills than Deontay Wilder, you believe the only reason who's more predictable than Deontay? We already know Deontay's whole game is jab right hand. And when he throws a jab to the body or a jab in general, it's just to give himself space, give him a little time, separation, and then jab right hand, jab right hand. We already know that. When's the last time you ever said, or the first time, Deontay knocked him out with a beautiful uppercut, nice body shot to set up the hook up top? Any of that? So he says, in his mind, now think about this. You believe basically Tyson Fury has all these great abilities as a fighter. He can beat Anthony Joshua because he has all these physical gifts and tools. But the only reason he beat Deontay is because he cheated. So he can beat Anthony Joshua fair and square, but he had to cheat to beat Deontay Wilder. So if you really believe that he had loaded gloves and he cheated and all this crap you claim, here's the deal. If that motherfucker had on 16-ounce gloves, he still would have beat Deontay Wilder. If you think that the reason he beat Deontay Wilder was because of gloves, well, it just goes to show you. That's like if I'm fighting the motherfucker and he got brass knuckles on. My knuckles might not be made of brass, but when my shit connect, motherfucker, you gonna know this motherfucker can punch. And that shit that if you knew how to box and slip punches and move your fucking head, you wouldn't been getting hit with those shots. And at the end of the day, to say he's gonna he has all these physical gifts over Anthony Joshua. Here's my thing. What he beat Deontay Wilder with was basic shit. You watched the fight, he walked him down. You didn't see lightning combinations from Fury. You didn't see lightning hand speed. You didn't see all this flexing, moving, agility shit that he's known for. He walked him down and banged him up. You can't hit what you can't fucking see. And if Deontay Wilder had some fucking defense, if he knew how to fucking fight on the back foot, if he knew how to mix it up, set traps and counter and do all of that, he wouldn't have got beat the fuck up. It's as simple as that. So my thing is, when you bring up somebody's name who's clearly a fanboy, who's clearly going to sit here and say things in favor of the fighter that they like, what point are you making? You don't make any fucking sense. The guy says that Deontay Wilder was cheated and Tyson Fury knows he can't beat him fair and square. So wait, Anthony Joshua is predictable, but Deontay Wilder isn't. I mean, I'm saying you think about what was said, and then you add the fact that you're saying, how come I don't talk about what's next for Wilder? First off, it's a mystery because Wilder doesn't speak about shit other than what's going on. Anybody can sit here and say, I want this guy, and if I can't get this guy, I get this guy. Then go back into hibernation and, well, what's next? You tell me. You're the fan, right? You should know what he's doing. You guys know what type of fucking soap he washed with, what type of cologne he wears. You guys know what kind of car he like, his favorite breakfast cereal. You understand? Does he like steak and eggs? And what? You guys know all of this shit. I don't need to know any of that about me. Listen, I'm not a fan. I don't need to know any of these things about a guy. I don't know nothing about these people, celebrities, whatever. I don't do that. The only people I have that kind of interest in is my family, the people that I love. I don't have interest in people like that. That I can sit here and tell you what date this happened and when he fought this, what year it was, how many rounds he went with this guy. And it's a no, that's not being a boxing historian to me. That's being a fucking stalker. That's a fan. That's you're all on someone's nuts. I don't need to know any of that shit. There's a whole lot of things that I know that I forgot that I didn't remember I knew. And oh yeah, that's right. I remember that. Yeah, okay. I don't do the fanboy thing. I can bring news without being a fan. Period. If you think that, which I really don't care, but if you guys think that if I don't say something about a guy, that means that I don't wish him well or whatever you guys are thinking. You know, that's I really don't care about trying to appease your opinions. But again, like I said, I speak less about Anthony Joshua than I do any other boxer, period. Because Anthony Joshua, like I said, when it's fight time, this is when we talk about what's going on. These other guys are always talking. They're always running their mouths. So there's nothing to really say other than just making up conversation. You know, I'll give you an example. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have heard the rumor that Tyson Fury fired Javon Sugar Hill. Depending on the sources, I felt like it's bullshit. It's that's too big a news to just be shared between a couple of YouTube channels. And then, you know, the video where Tyson Fury says, Javon, you know, how does it feel to be fired? He fuck you to Tyson Fury or something like that. To me, that was some sarcasm. That was just, I don't know where it came, why, and whatever. It's really not important. Why didn't I do a video about it? Because I don't know that it's news. I could sit here, waste my time and your time and say, breaking news. Tyson Fury fired Javon Sugar Hill. Just to sit here and tell you I don't know that that's the case. Just to get likes and views on the video. Nah. I don't need to do that. You know, I remember somebody, you know, they wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I understood what they were saying. You know, one of the family, I think, said, maybe I should get a gimmick, man, because, like, I should have far more viewers and subscribers than I do have, right? This channel has came a long way, you know. I get what they were saying, but, nah, I'd rather just do what I do. See, because unlike other channels, I don't need to sit here and think of what can I do to get more views, and then just go and give you some, you know, give you a misleading clickbaited title just to make you click on the video to find out that what I'm saying, I don't know any more than you do about a particular situation. Now, there are certain situations where I'll say, I don't know if it's true or not, but rumor has it, because you got a lot of people talking about certain things. So before I even click on YouTube to know anything other, you know, even on other social media, you see and hear certain things. And we don't always know what's true. But, you know, for me to just sit here and talk about what's going on with these guys and they're not saying much of anything. Now, if I ask you this question, right, how can people answer this question properly? Since Deontay Wilder said he wants Andy Ruiz, now we know Ruiz is already locked in the fight, Chris Arreola. Well, here's a question. He said he wanted him. If he can't get him, he wants Dylan. So what has Deontay Wilder been doing to go forward, to make any progress, to make a fight with anybody, period? The only name that came up was this guy. I spoke about the guy already, man. Carlos Negron, who was knocked out by Dominic Brazil, was knocked out in the first round by some other guy, was knocked out by some other guy. This guy's not even ranked. So if that is true, like I said in the video, if it's true, because that's a rumor that was strong, that would be a disgrace to Wilder and to his fans, because basically beating Carlos Negron, okay, I beat Carlos Negron, big deal. You're supposed to. You learn absolutely nothing by him, even if he went out there and pulled a Dominic Brazil and knocked this guy out in one round. Cool. But what does it prove? Nothing. He's supposed to beat Carlos Negron. He's supposed to beat him. Okay? So what do we learn about Deontay Wilder for beating this guy? I mean, we've seen him get outboxed by Gerald Washington before he knocked him out. We've seen Arthur Spilka outboxed him before he knocked him out. We saw Molina buzz him and give him trouble. I mean, we can go down the list. We know that Deontay Wilder is not a boxer. We know that it's not hard to outbox Deontay Wilder. So a guy like Carlos Negron, I mean, it's like he's supposed to knock this guy out, but at the end of the day, do you really care to tune in to watch that shit? I certainly don't. And basically, it's like you guys want me to say things out. First of all, I don't say what nobody want me to say. At the end of the day, though, it's like you want to hear me sit here and say things that's not true, but it sounds good because it makes a fighter look better than what they are. Basically, I'm not sitting here licking my chops waiting to bash Deontay Wilder and nobody else. I'm only giving the news that's given. So if I say that he can't box, who the fuck doesn't know that? Everybody knows Deontay Wilder can't box. If I say that Deontay Wilder has said he wants this guy and this guy, if he can't get this guy, he wants this guy, and then nothing's happened, am I lying? So tell me what fight's coming next for him. So how the hell can I sit here and tell you what's next for Deontay Wilder when Deontay Wilder's not telling the world what's next? We don't need Tay Jones to fucking tell us nothing. We don't need somebody else to tell us what's going on with Deontay. We need Deontay Wilder to say, this is what's next. And if he's not doing so, how can I sit here and tell you what is next for Deontay Wilder? I did a video when Stavern fought whatever the guy name is, man. I just did a video and I mentioned this guy's name, Trevor Bryant. And I said, maybe they're fattening up one of these guys for Deontay Wilder. Because whoever wins, Deontay can beat both of them. And maybe this will get him back in the mix, but give him the opportunity to defend his title, his WBA, against other WBA fighters who are lesser fighters and less of a threat. And they can get him to where, okay, he has some impressive victories or impressive knockouts against guys that he should knock out, but guess what? He's holding the title. And maybe now this will elevate his name right back into talks with Anthony Joshua, because from what we understand, him and Tyson Fury worked out where they won't even fight each other anymore. All these different things that was said, I don't even want to talk about that. I'm tired of even talking about. I don't want to hear nothing about none of that arbitration, none of that nonsense. And basically, Dillian White, after he beat Rebecca, he said maybe he'll go fight for that title. Okay. Dillian White versus Trevor Bryant. Anybody versus Trevor Bryant isn't a big fight. It's just somebody. Which one of you big time guys, which one of you big names are going to go take this title off this guy? Basically, that's what that is. It has nothing to do with the matchup itself. So, yeah, we don't know what's next for Deontay. We don't know what's next for any fighter. We can say maybe this guy versus this guy. I mean, by now we all thought we was going to see Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney, right? Or Ryan Garcia, versus Teofimo Lopez. Did not Teofimo Lopez sit right there and say in front of a camera, oh, Ryan Garcia is definitely next? And what happens? He's fighting someone else. He's fighting Kambosos. All right, he's fighting George Kambosos, not Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia was mandatory for Devin Haney's title, and he chose to not fight the champion. He's talking about fighting Pacquiao. Now we hear he's fighting Fortuna. See, and you just don't know what's going on in boxing. So I can never tell you what's next for anybody. We can ask the question, what's next, or what we think is next, or what would be a good logical choice, things like that. So if you feel like I'm bashing Deontay Wilder, well, get over it, man. Because I'm not going to sit here and try to be apologetic or try to make you guys feel any easier about any fighter. Basically, what am I supposed to say? I can sit here and play. The only thing I'd be doing is playing the what if game. Because none of us can sit here and tell you what the next person is going to do. This is what I will tell you about what's happening. Listen, you got to understand something about Deontay. 35 years old. 35, whatever he is, 35, 36, whatever he is. He's not getting any younger. None of us are, okay? Nobody's getting any younger. The longer he stays out that ring, the harder it's going to be for him to get back up to get in that ring. Believe it. And he can jump in there and train and do whatever and start, for one, boxing a lot of times is like writing music, writing songs. Somebody can give you a beat, they can give you a track, and that track could be so fire, so lit. I love that track. But you have to have a purpose for writing to that song, that particular track, because if not, then you're forcing it. And a lot of times we hear the finished product, we don't realize that artist probably wrote 5, 6, 7, 10 times and kept, this is not it. I'm not feeling this. They get away from it, then one day they just listen to other stuff, start, trying to get rejuvenated for this particular song, and then one day it just clicks and it's like, and all of a sudden you know what, this is what I'm gonna write about, and it comes out the way you want it to. It's like that with fighting a lot of times, where it's like you got to get yourself up for the fight. It's not just who's in front of you so much, but you have to want that. You have to have that purpose. That fire has to burn within you. Or you can jump right back in there and get destroyed. What's the guy name they call Kid Chocolate? And we saw him finally lose. He disappeared like 3 years, man. I mean, completely disappeared. And then you see him here and there on videos, interviews, talking, and how he's coming back, and he's training all the time. He hasn't lost a beat, and came back and got beat. And you could clearly see he wasn't the same fighter when he came back. Too much time out the ring. It's not good. Deontay Wilder is too injury prone. I believe Deontay Wilder got beat up so bad that mentally, I don't care how confident and cocky he acts in front of that camera on interviews and sitting there smiling, acting like he's all arrogant, like he's ready to just, man, I could jump in there right now. But no, I believe Deontay's confidence was broken down inside of him, man. That's what I believe. Like I said about Amir Khan. Amir Khan fighting a guy, like Conor Ben. Amir Khan is nothing but a rib cage that they're waiting to throw to the lions, man. And if Deontay Wilder, he hasn't been in the ring since over a year now, okay? Since he lost to Fury. Bringing up names and talking does not get the job done. So you guys who get impressed because a fighter says this and he says that, you got to get in the ring and prove it. Liam Smith says he's going to smash on Demetrius Andre's face, and yeah, makes you want to watch the fight, doesn't it? You want to see what's going to happen. Me, it's not about his words. I'm simply about what I see them both do in the ring. Okay, let's see what happens. But a lot of people get caught up into the whole fight hype. Doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care what people say. I've heard people say, they say a whole lot of things. They go in the ring and they don't even come close to doing what they claim they was going to do. My whole thing about boxing as a sport, it's become too commercial. And I don't mean the money involved. I'm talking about all the politics, all of these little sideways antics. It's become too watered down. It's become, the fighters are way too egotistical to the point where instead of these guys wanting to get in there and mix it up, it's like everybody want to be a king on the throne. And that's one of the reasons why I never liked that whole analogy, that whole thinking process when Deontay Wilder was talking about kings don't fight, kings fight other kings. They don't fight peasants. Bro, at some point you won't be a king anymore, right? You have to fight your so-called peasants to get back to your kingmanship, right? So what happens when you're no longer a king? What happens when people that you were calling peasants are now in a better position than you are? So that my whole thing was, well, damn, if that's the case, then why is it so hard to get these kings in the ring with each other? Why is it so hard to get these kings and to sign and say, hey, look, I want this fight. Look, let me tell you guys something right now. I've been in positions in my life where I could have took something that would have been financially more lucrative than something else. But there's things in between that I know I wouldn't like, and it's like, it's not for me. people will look at the dollar amount and say, man, I'd have took that. Yeah, you would have, but you're not me. So if you're ever in that position, then you take it then. I don't do something and then look back. Once you make a decision, you got to, hey, go forward. You got to deal with that. You got to go forward. And boxing, what people fail to realize is this. Your plan up here, your body may not agree with that shit. So you can say, I'm going to fight till I'm 40. Motherfucker, at 36, your body might be like, okay, it's time to hang it up. Because you just don't know how long you're going to last. And when you are spending all this time out the ring, look, Shane Mosley lost to Vernon Forrest, jumped right back in there. Lost to Winky Wright, jumped right back in there. Now, even though he lost both of those rematches, he jumped right back in. People might look at that and say he should have took more time to study his opponent. No, it's not that. Shane Mosley, basically, he was never really a slick boxer. He was always a flash. I call him a stylish brawler. He's a flashy puncher. That's what I call him. Because he has hand speed. But Shane just lets his hands go to try to, get something to land. There's no real rhyme or reason like two to the body, one through the middle, one to the side. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like he doesn't do that kind of shit. He just throws those little fast shoe shine type punches. Shane has always had a problem with boxers. He's never had a problem with punchers. It's just people that can box. It didn't matter if it was Winky Wright holding his guard up high coming forward. If it was Floyd Mayweather walking him down and giving him different looks and beating him to the punch time. And it didn't matter who it was. If it was Manny Pacquiao outboxing him, putting combinations together. Like, this is how you put a combination together, Shane. You know what I'm saying? It didn't make a difference. He just had a problem with boxers. Couldn't outbox. And a lot of people forget that Miguel Cotto outboxed him and beat him convincingly. He's never had a problem with punchers, man. He's always had a problem with boxers. Point is, you lose a fight, you get like if you say that you know why you lost, or you feel like I know I can do better. Doesn't matter what you actually say. It's how you actually feel and what you understand and absorb, that you know what you need to do different and being able to execute. He wasn't able to. Okay. We saw Tyson Fury beat a lackluster looking Vladimir Klitschko when they fought. We don't know what would have happened in the rematch. I'm not going to see it until I guarantee you for a fact Klitschko would have won. I don't know that. Maybe he would have. I tell you what, if he came to fight like he did when he fought AJ, it probably would have been a different outcome. Okay? And one thing that he wouldn't have to worry about is Tyson Fury's punching power. And Vlad could punch. Vlad can box. Maybe he had a bad night that night. Don't know. Doesn't matter. It's water under a bridge now. But we never got that rematch. Anybody can sit here and predict who they think would have won. It doesn't change anything. So, you know what I'm saying? And the thing was, the rematch did not happen because of Klitschko. It was Fury. We know his situation. Whatever. We look at Deontay Wilder. What is the reason he's not in the ring? He's yet to tell us why he hasn't been in the ring. So again, sitting in front of a camera, screw facing, acting super angry, then smiling, acting cocky when you ask certain questions, or doing interviews with people that's only going to ask you questions and speak in your favor. The one guy that he spoke to, I forget the guy's name, when he was sitting in the car, and he kept cutting the guy off and just dismissing his questions and trying to answer his questions with arrogance. And at the end of the day, you keep saying you got cheated, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is this, right? There should have been some hefty fucking lawsuits, because at the end of the damn day, if you was cheated, you should have been suing and having the Nevada Athletic State Commission, you should have had them investigated. You should have actually had access. Listen, let me tell you something. Those gloves should have been investigated. After that fight, during that fight, you should have been speaking on your behalf that this guy got something in his gloves. When you sit and say, all along we knew this guy was a cheater. Okay, well, you knew he was a cheater, but you chose to fight him. And even though you knew he was a cheater, you didn't make sure that his gloves was checked, everything was checked on it, nothing. You didn't take any extra precautions. You treated it just like any other fight. So to say we already knew all along, everybody knew he was a cheater. We always knew he was a cheater. And on top of that, to even say that, he never hurt you in the fight. Listen, I'm a super tough, rugged dude. I know the difference because I've boxed people even in the streets. We done had gloves. I still have a pair of gloves where they have actually no padding in the knuckle. It's like wearing mitts. And I've actually fought guys with wearing those shits. And it feels different when you get hit with that versus you get hit with a pad of glove. And I don't want to hear that, in the heat of battle, you just over bullshit. If you know that you're being cheated, you don't sit there and just take that and not say anything. And then on top of that, don't have an understanding as to why your trainer threw the towel in. Now, why is that so hard for anybody to understand? Why? If this man felt you was being beat up and didn't know why, or according to you, that you thought that he had something to do with this and that and spiking, all this kind of shit, for you guys to sit here and feed into this bullshit and act like this is true just because he's saying it. It would be like me sitting here right now. A guy calls me outside of my house, and I sit here and say, I know this guy always carry a gun. So wouldn't I go get my shit? Or should I walk out there and bring knuckles to a gunfight? Or would I say, let me go get my shit? Even if it's just in case, right? Just in case he has it. Bottom line, for me to know ahead of time, this guy's known for shooting people. You don't, and look, at the end of a fight, to say, well, I ain't gonna make no excuses. Well, anyway, I didn't feel good coming in. No excuse. The better man won, but no excuse. And they can make excuses. How am I going to sit here and give you credit for something if I know you cheated? Listen, John Ruiz got beat by Roy Jones. Okay, he was a sore loser. The guy said, Roy Jones, I was fighting Roy Jones and the referee. The referee wouldn't let me do what I had to do. Or how can I get a guy credit when he basically, used the referee, they cheated, the guy didn't beat me. Okay. He was a sore loser, but you want to know what makes sense about that? He said, how can I give the guy credit? He didn't beat me. So he felt during the fight that even though he got beat, Roy just beat him. All this stuff he was talking about, basically, he was holding and hitting. John Ruiz was holding and hitting and doing some wrong shit, and he knows it. But bottom line, he didn't sit there and praise Roy Jones and then wait till after it sinks in and then wait for a bunch of people to start saying that, oh, man, Roy didn't really win or whatever. No. He said that shit right back in the dressing room. Okay? He was salty in the dressing room. He was salty at the end of the decision in the ring. You understand what I'm saying? Deontay Wilder didn't say anything. If I'm sitting here knowing this man got something in his glove, does that make me less of a man? Ref, check this motherfucker's gloves. Something is in his glove. If this dude has hit me with his palm, you don't think I know the difference with that? But I'm not saying nothing to the ref or nothing to nobody in my corner. You don't hear any complaints in the corner. You don't hear him say nothing to the referee during the fight. Why is this so hard for people to let go of? Why are these points so hard for people to think of? So this is my point. Anytime Wilder names comes up, this is all we ever fucking hear. The same thing that I'm sitting here saying right now. This type of shit, glovegate. Why and how can we sit here and put him in a position forward when he's stuck in the past? You guys got to stop all the fanboy stuff and acting like somebody's under attack because we're telling the truth. Well, it doesn't make a difference to me, but here's what I say, okay? If you want something, you got to go get it. And when it takes you forever to just make the steps to make something happen for whatever reason, you got to deal with that. Don't let your fans put you in a position where you go get knocked out or go get beat because you do something you're not ready for. So at the end of the day, it's not about what we're saying. It's about what he's doing or not doing. Enough said. Catch y'all on the next video.